When I was putting together my recent video on Oasis outros, I used this soundbite right at the beginning. It's taken from the rock band version of Rock and Roll Star by Oasis, which split that song into 4 different stems. And as I was tinkering around with that particular guitar stem, I noticed something a little bit out of place right at the beginning. See if you can spot it. Did you catch it? The guitar plays something different right at the beginning to what we hear on the Definitely Maybe version. On the Definitely Maybe version, the guitar plays the same opening lick twice. On this version, the second half is different. So the first time I heard that, I thought to myself, maybe it was just a case of Owen Morris hearing this riff and just preferring that first phrase repeated twice, so maybe he just copied and pasted it. But I thought, to be sure, I would go and check the Whitfield Street Sessions bootleg and just have a listen to that demo of Rock and Roll Star, because that's the one that Noel himself mixed before Owen Morris got hold of it. But as I listened to the Whitfield Street version, I realised that this take was different again. There are just small differences between Noel's guitar parts, but they are definitely all different from each other. And it got me wondering just how many different lead guitar takes did Noel do for this song. I then decided to listen to the isolated Rock and Roll Star lead guitar track from start to finish, and to compare it to the Whitfield Street version and the Definitely Maybe version. And I discovered in doing that this particular guitar track, the version that was released for the PlayStation, is completely unique. Now, for the majority of the song, it just plays the same as the other takes, but most noticeably in the intro and especially in the outro, we hear quite significant differences. So, on the Definitely Maybe outro, Noel just kind of creates crazy noises quite high up the neck with the slide. You can hear them on this track. On the Whitfield Street demos that contained the tracks chosen by Noel before Owen Morris got hold of it, we had bent double stops and unison bends just going round and round and round in a kind of hypnotic way for the outro. Have a listen. But on the Rock Band isolated guitar track, we get a completely previously unheard guitar solo. So how did this happen? How did a previously unreleased studio outtake end up being released to the public via a PlayStation game? I have a theory, and it comes from this fantastic website, which is oasisrecordinginfo.co.uk. The interview is with Neil Dorfsman, the engineer who mixed What's the Story Morning Glory for Super Audio CD. He was asked, tell us a bit about the process. You go to a studio and you're presented with the multi-tracks for the album. presumably as reels of tape rather than digital transfers. And Neil replies, I went into the Sony studios in New York and I wasn't presented with multitracks on tape, but a Pro Tools session, which was partly frustrating because whoever transferred the original source tapes to Pro Tools didn't label the tracks. So basically I was given audio 1 through whatever, 32 or 40, all unlabeled. The labelling was a little dodgy because there were multiple parts that were not on the final record. There were a lot of parts that were muted on certain sections, unmuted in others, and actual complete parts that were not used in the stereo mix. So it seems, judging by this interview, that what would happen anytime the tracks needed to be remixed for the Super Audio CD or the PlayStation game is the record company would just send over all the raw tracks with no mix notes. The tracks weren't even labelled, so the sound engineer would have to reconstruct everything from scratch. So for the Rock Band game, I think that's what happened. I think they sent over all the tracks, just raw, unlabelled, with no mix notes. And I think the sound engineer accidentally made a mistake and selected the wrong guitar track. I think he or she selected a particular guitar take that never actually made it into the final mix. And as a bit of an Oasis deep dive fan myself, I'm kind of glad they did. The Rock Band mixes contain all kinds of really interesting little Oasis Easter eggs, one of the most interesting being that's the only place you can hear the full outro to Some Might Say without the fade out that happens on the officially released version. On Rock Band, you can hear the band wind the song down and you can hear them finish it properly. The Rock Band game is the only place you hear the studio version of that complete ending. So it's nothing particularly mind-blowing, although it's quite good, but it's really interesting just from a historical perspective to hear the outro solo that Noel wrote and recorded, but up until this game never released, for Rock and Roll Star. So let's have a listen to the Rock and Roll Star outro, remixed by me with Noel's guitar turned right up so you can hear his unused, accidentally released outro guitar solo.